Mr. Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief bill is nearing the finish line. The House has passed the stimulus package, which is among the largest in U.S. history. The bill is now being sent to President Biden's desk without any Republican support. Only one Democrat, Maine's Jared Golden, opposed the measure. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the president will sign the bill on Friday. The bill includes $1,400 direct checks to low and middle income Americans. It has a $300 per week boost to unemployment insurance through the summer. A number of other provisions are in the legislation as well, including a child tax credit increase and money for vaccine distribution. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins me now from Capitol Hill. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins me now from Capitol Hill. Hi, Nikole. So as the relief bill gets set to head to the president's desk, polling shows the measure is incredibly popular. A recent CNN poll says the package has 61% support overall, and certain aspects of the bill have overwhelming bipartisan backing among voters, including those $1,400 stimulus checks, facilitating the return to schools, and larger tax credits. So what do Democratic lawmakers plan to do next on COVID relief, or do they plan to move on to completely new issues like infrastructure?
Well, Democratic leaders hope that this will be the last COVID relief package, although Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that, the virus will ultimately dictate that in terms of the course that this pandemic takes. But certainly the hope is that this will be one of the last major pieces of legislation that they have to pass to deal with this pandemic. And so for that reason, that is why Democrats are making such a big deal out of this and calling this really a transformative piece of legislation. But beyond that, they certainly have their eye on other big ticket items like infrastructure. We expect, for instance, President Biden, according to our Ben Tracy, could unveil more details about his plan in a joint address to Congress, possibly as early as next month. And, Democrats and Republicans have already been speaking about various proposals. And then, of course, in the short term, at least in the House, there are other big items as well that they plan to take up this week. For instance, the House will be voting on a universal background checks bill, one they brought up before. Also, they're looking to take up the issue of immigration as well. So certainly still a full agenda lies ahead.
And Nikole, one issue President Biden and congressional Democrats are backing is the fight over labor rights. Many have thrown their support behind Amazon warehouse workers in Alabama in their unionization efforts. Last night, the White House passed a sweeping labor bill called the Protecting the Right to Organize Act. What would this bill specifically accomplish, and why do Democrats feel so strongly right now about strengthening labor protections, particularly in Alabama?
Well, basically, this bill does a couple of things. It expands collective bargaining rights. It also penalizes employers who violate labor laws and also weakens right-to-work laws in states that don't require workers to belong to unions. And, of course, this issue in Alabama with this Amazon warehouse has certainly drawn a lot of attention around the country as workers there try to unionize to the point that they are being contacted by other entities who are trying to replicate what they're doing. And so Democrats argue that this is important in terms of protecting workers' rights. And now, in terms of the Senate, certainly as many pieces of legislation right now, it could potentially face an uphill battle there. But Democrats in the House, at least, are championing this effort for now.
Right. And of course, measures like this bill, as you say, will require bipartisan support. Something Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer doesn't have. As you pointed out last night on CNN, he was asked if he should have done more to convince moderate Republicans, such as Alaska's Lisa Murkowski or Maine's Susan Collins, to join in the relief bill. Let's listen to what he said.
We made a big mistake in 2009 and 10. Susan Collins was part of that mistake. We cut back on the stimulus dramatically, and we stayed in recession for 5 years. What was offered by the Republicans was so far away from what's needed, so far away from what Biden proposed, that he thought that they were not being serious and wanting to really negotiate.
So, Nikole, how is Senator Collins responding to this? And in general, what is the state of bipartisanship in the Senate at the moment?
Well, Senator Collins called Senator Schumer's comments bizarre and kind of, to use more kind of common jargon, clap back at Majority Leader Schumer. I mean, the point that she made in response to his comments is, look, despite all the millions of dollars that were poured into trying to defeat me in Maine, I'm still here. I'm still standing. I was reelected. In other words, I'm still relevant and I still have a voice. So clearly she disagrees very strongly with what the majority leader said. And she did express a willingness and interest to work with Democrats and the Biden administration, for instance, on the issue of infrastructure, although she couched it by saying she thinks she's willing to do that. So a little hesitancy on her part there.
All right. Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill. Thank you so much.
You bet.